My name is Thorsten Overgaard. I'm a Danish photographer. I travel the world taking photographs and teaching photography. Today I'm going to talk about the Leica M EV1. It is kind of a problem, and it's also what is the final judgment. If you haven't seen the Leica M EV1 in person yet, you might wonder, how does the viewfinder look? The answer is the viewfinder looks exactly the same as on the Leica Q and on the Leica SL. So that means you look through the viewfinder and you see a small screen, and on that screen you see everything that the sensor sees. There's nothing outside, there's no frame lines, it's just the full sensor view. So you put on a 21mm, you see the full 21mm view. You put on 135mm, you see just the 135mm. There's nothing outside, nothing extra. And then what you do in order to focus, or what happens when you look for a viewfinder, is that I have the camera here turned on, and then I press the little button here. Now I see the frame. I press the button, and now it zooms in 10x, and then I can set the focus here, and then I can take the photograph. And that's basically how it works. There is no moving rangefinder pads or anything like that. It's just simply a screen, and sometimes you can just look at the full screen. You don't have to zoom in 10x or 5x to focus. You can just see when the clarity is high, and then you can take the photograph. Before I get into it, below the video there is linked to free downloads. There is an ebook I wrote about iconic photographs and iconic photographers, how they took the photographs, and also I write about how I take photographs and why I take photographs. There's also below the video there is links to free downloads of Lightroom presets and Capture One styles that I made to give the Leica look. So that means you can basically use them for Hasselblad, Fuji, Canon, whatever, and get somewhat the Leica look. Today I also have some additional extra gifts. One thing I have here is I have two of these. This is a bag. It's probably the last two in the world that I picked up from Leica World. That's like the Leica headquarters in Germany. And this is a beautiful bag that it's packed down like this. You can travel with it, and then you need a bag, you unpack it. Two of these, and those are free. I will choose amongst the comments on this video, so if you comment anything, it doesn't have to be intelligent, good or bad or anything, but anybody who makes any sort of comment, I will select two people. Also, for those who make comments, I will select one who gets one of these, and this is the Leica Pocketbook 9th edition. The little red book. This is a super nerdy book. What it is a list of all Leica cameras that was ever made, all lenses, how many was made, what limited editions and everything. And most of them have a page here. Under the page you can make notes about whatever, your own lenses and so on. Super nerdy and a must-have. Basically, this is made by Red Dot Camera in London. It's a fascinating store that have a lot of secondhand and vintage and collector's items, and also new Leica. They've been there for a lifetime, and they make this book. You cannot really get it anymore, except you can get it on eBay. It's $150, $160. I have some of them that I'm going to give away in videos that I bought for an okay price when they were still in stock. This is the Leica M EV1. It is a camera I've been asking Leica to make for 8-10 years. So in the past 100 years, Leica have made Leica M here with a rangefinder. I thought it was kind of obvious there have to be an electronic viewfinder in it, and I kept asking for it, and so did other people, and here it is. And then the question is, what do I think about it? Well, it's actually not a question, what do I think about it? I do have my own personal opinion. What I would say is that it's a camera that divides people. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it, but there's also the possibility that you just don't care. And you can watch this video no matter what you feel. I'll try to give you a little bit more information. So what is it? Leica M EV1. So basically this is a Leica M11, which I have an M11 here. This is an M11P. So this is 60 megapixels and so on. It came out in 2022 and it's come different versions with P. There's a monochrome, there's one without a screen on the back like this. And now there is one more version that is M11, no, sorry, Leica M EV1. It's a very difficult name to roll your tongue around, but I'll try my best. But don't be confused, it's a Leica M11 and it has a built-in EVF. And a Leica with a built-in EVF is not a new thing. There's actually here, we can go back, there's a few of them. This is the first one from 2004. It is a little bit dusty. This is a beautiful camera. I use this a lot. It's great in the way it has a 28 to 90mm zoom 2.0. It's like an amazing lens. If it was sitting on an M camera or SL camera, it would cost a minor fortune. It didn't. I think this camera was $1,200 or $1,600 when it came out. Today you can buy them secondhand for like $300 to $600, sometimes $1,000. Not particularly rare, but very loved by the people who have it. But this one you can see, it has an eye here. It looks like a rangefinder. It's not. This is just infrared eye, I think it is, for focusing. And here it has the EVF. Beautiful camera, and that was the first in 2004. Then in 2015, Leica came out with both the Leica SL here, which has an EVF here, with a lot of beautiful optics in front of it. I'll come back to that one in a second. And then also in 2015 came the first Leica Q, looks like this, fixed lens, and it has an EVF. Both of these, well, also this one is all autofocus. We'll get into that. The great thing about EVF and autofocus. The difference between these, so let's actually take all three of them, is you can see this one extrudes quite a bit from the back with optical. So you can say fundamentally the screen inside that you look at when you look through an electronic viewfinder is the same in all three cameras. It's like 5.7 megapixels or something like that. But the way you look at it, you have really good optics in this one and you see the full picture even if you wear glasses like I do. Then you have the Q here. I will see about 90%. I'll just move my head around. You get used to it very quickly. That's how it works. And here you see about 80%. And the reason is you can see, if you look at these two, you can see that Leica shaved off a couple of millimeters here. In a way, it doesn't change the quality of the screen or the view or anything, but it does change how much you can see if you're wearing glasses. But that's basically the history of electronic viewfinder. And then the question is, why do we need that? Fundamentally, you could say traditionally all Leicas with electronic viewfinder have been autofocus. This one have manual focus. And that's one thing when I talk to the product managers at Leica, they kind of said EVF only makes sense if it's autofocus. Sort of, you could say the Q here does have autofocus. It also has the possibility of going manual focus. Very easy, you just click it over here and then your manual focus and it zooms in so you can see the picture. And I would say 30 to 50% of who have the Leica Q uses manual focus on it. So that is something you can use for an EVF, but it's part of the consideration that Leica had, like, no, we're not going to, for a long time they said, we're not going to put in an electronic viewfinder in the M. And one of the reasons, or maybe the last barriers was like, no, it doesn't have autofocus. And it is not an autofocus camera. And let me tell you how that works. The EVF have three purposes or three reasons why you would have an EVF. One thing you could say that is for the focus. If you have not great eyesight, this is great. And bad eyesight means it can be anything that you just have trouble focusing with a traditional rangefinder where you look at this rangefinder pads going back and forth. Some people just don't feel certain about that. Electronic viewfinder, you see exactly what a sensor sees. You don't have that problem. Then one of the things confuse people with this one, you can say normally if you have a camera and you focus and you shoot at 5.6, then you set the focus and take the photograph. That doesn't work with this one. When you have manual focus, you have to open up the lens wide open. In this case, it's a 51.4, so open the lens to 1.4, and then I look for the viewfinder, and then I can press this button up here. I'm wide open, and then I can set the focus accurately, and then I can reframe. And in reframing, I can also say, now I'm going to go 5.6 or 8 to have more in focus, and then I can take the photograph. But that is essential that you do that, and there's also a thing that you can say the Leica M EV1 comes from the factory with this focus aid, which is a red outline to show you where it's in focus, and that is complete bollocks. It has to be turned off, and the reason it has to be turned off is that if I put, for example, I tested that, if I put on my 20mm 1.4 and I have something over here that's 1.8 meters away, then when I focus from 80 centimeters to infinity, I have red outline. And the problem with the red outline is that if you rely on the red outline to tell you when it is focused, and when you get close to focus or something, high contrast edge or whatever, then you see the red outline, you think great, it's in focus, and then you take the photograph. You come home, you put it on the computer, you see it's not in focus, and you think, what the heck happened? Did my sensor move or whatever? It doesn't make any sense. So when you turn off the red outline, you will see that you were not in focus, because it's just turned on before. When it had acceptable contrast and focus, then it turns red, and then you cannot see the details. So that's why you turn off the red outline. Now you can see the details, and then it's very easy, especially if you 10x, zoom in 10x and see the detail of what you're focusing on. You can nail it 100%. But even you could say with a full frame, you can still see when your clarity is high, it is in focus, and you can take the photograph. There's no doubt about it. So the red outline have to be turned off as the first thing when you open the box and take out the Leica M EV1. The second thing why it's good or could be good to have an EVF is that you can you have exposure preview. So you can see when you look for this one, what you see is what you get. So if it looks dark, it is dark. If it is too bright, it is too bright. And if you set up the camera, I'll tell about that. I'm doing like a book and a video class about the whole setting up how to use this camera. So I'll spare you for some of the details. But you could say a camera with an EVF, just like the Q here, it begs for you to turn on auto ISO. And that means when you have auto ISO, then you go inside, you go outside, you don't have to think about anything, and you look for the viewfinder. And what happens is that the light meter suggests a shutter speed, and very often that will be right if it's very easy light. That means like you have the sun behind you, you're looking at a normal cityscape with cars and houses and so on. The light meter can figure that out, because the light meter knows that whatever is in front of the camera is supposed to be mid-tone, like middle gray, and that is what it is. As soon as you want to take a photograph of, for example, a person with a sunset behind or just more light behind them, they're going to be underexposed. They're going to be just a black silhouette. And that you can see in the EVF, and then you can simply just turn the wheel here so you can under and overexpose. And as it is, what you see is what you get. You turn the wheel till the person looks normal skin tone in their face, and then you take the photograph. So that is one great thing about DVF, that you can actually preview. You can say it's not, I would say it's not 100% precise. It is something you get used to, that when the white highlight looks like this, they might look like they're overexposed, but they're not in the final picture when you get on the computer. That's like a workflow you get used to, that you have an idea that when it looks like this, it is right. And you say that's great. It gives a very high certainty that what you're doing is right. There's not going to be a surprise. So you can say now you have nailed the focus and you have nailed the exposure. The third reason you will get a Leica M EV1 would be that you can use other lenses. So what do I mean with this? Like, this is a 51.4. This is the black chrome edition. Is like a different or limited. It's not actually limited, but it's a different version. Let's not go there. And this one focuses as close as 70 centimeters. The newer version of this is the same optics, but Leica made it so now you can go close focus. And that means that on the lens header would be a scale that goes from white and it goes to gray numbers and it gives a little bit click, then you go over there. Then on a rangefinder camera like this, the rangefinder cannot focus that close. But the great thing is with this camera, you can close focus and you can see, what you see is what you get in the EVF. So you can focus close focus, and you can also even put on a macro ring. So that's like you can get a vintage ring on eBay or whatever. It is 10 millimeters, it's solid brass. You put it between the lens and the camera, and now you're focusing this close, you're doing macro. And Leica have also one in stock. There's a new edition of this one that it goes from probably like 13 millimeter to 20 millimeters. That's even closer macro. Or smaller things you can do macro of, and that will also work on this one. Then you could say you can have other lenses like this one is a 21 1.4 beautiful lens, and you could say on a normal rangefinder camera, you look for the rangefinder, you see about 24 to 28 millimeter frame, and this is a 21. Then you could guess what it is. You can also get a little optical viewfinder to put on top of the camera. You can see the frame now is 21, and then you go here, focus, and so on. With this one, you see the entire frame of 21 millimeter, and that is just beautiful. It also means that you can put on exotic lenses. So you have, for example, this one is a Minolta 58 1.2, and you can put on a lot of stuff. If you can find an adapter that goes to M, you can put it on. See if I can find out where this one is supposed to be. There we go. Now you can put on this lens, and it has a very special look. And there's other stuff like this is Nikon 51.2. Not very expensive lenses, but very fun look. And also, of course, you can put on tail lenses. And you can put on other brands tail lenses. You can also go back to some of Leica's R lenses. 400mm, 100mm Apo is an amazing lens you can put on. All these things you can do because now it is, you see exactly what the sensor sees. You don't have to have a coupling because there is no coupling with the focus here in the rangefinder. You have to have an electronic viewfinder, and this is what you have in this one. So this is what opens up that you can use macro, you can use tail lenses, you can use all kinds of weird lenses on this camera, and you're not depending on the rangefinder anymore. There's a bonus thing with the Leica M EV1, and that is pretty reliable. If you take a rangefinder like this, then the way that it focuses is when you turn the focus ring here, you can see this piece of metal here moves up and down, and that is the one that pushes this one. And the rangefinder works, you look out through the viewfinder here, and then you have this one over here, gives this overlapping image that you use to focus, and that is directed by this one, the push on this one. Very precise technology and so on. The only thing is that if you drop the camera, or sometimes the temperature changes or whatever, you have it lying in the back and it goes on wheels or cobblestone, whatever, something can happen so the rangefinder goes out of focus, and then suddenly it doesn't focus precisely anymore, and then it has to go to the factory or a third party that can adjust the focus in the camera. That is history with this one, because you could say no matter how much you drop the camera, it's never going to go out of focus. You could say even if there was a misalignment in the lens, which is very rare, almost never happening, you're always going to see on the sensor what the lens sees. So you can always focus a lens. When it looks sharp on the sensor or the preview, it is sharp. The odd thing is that this camera actually does have this one in here, and it's not really connected with anything except that you can set the camera so you have focus peaking. So that means when you turn the lens, it activates this, and then the camera zooms in 10x. I wouldn't recommend you to have that because it's kind of annoying, but that's why it's there. The Leica M EV1 is a different experience. I really think the way to do it is you go to a Leica store or any dealer that have a Leica M EV1, or you find a friend or somebody who have one, and then you can try it. You can see, does this work for you or does it not work for you? I use it quite a bit, and I've done a video masterclass in how to set it up, how to use it, and it also comes with a book on just the M EV1. I'm also have been doing a book about the M11 series and also a video class for that, but there's one specific for the M EV1. One of the things that happens when you use the Leica M EV1 is you see that this is maybe not a bad idea. It's actually useful sometimes. And then suddenly you remember that I can also do this with the M11 because it does have an EVF you can put on here, and that is basically the same electronic viewfinder. The only difference is this one sits inside the camera. This has slightly higher resolution than this one. This one can tilt, so you can go photograph like this, which is really cool in some cases. This is not going to work. This is not going to take a photo of this. Those are the differences. But you can say if you only want to use an EVF occasionally, then maybe you put on the M11, and you can actually also put on the M10 here. You do a firmware update on the M10, and then you can use this one, and you can also use the round one that came with the M10. So that is a possibility, and that's something I had completely forgotten, but this is possible. I will not omit the joke of here we have the so-called American M EV1. This is the Leica SL3, and you can say the SL have been out since 2015. The new SL3 has flip screen and everything. It has a really beautiful EVF here, and what you can do, and what many have done, is that you put on instead of the SL lenses, you take a M lens with an adapter here, and you put this one on, and then it actually works like an M11 EV. And the reason that it's a joke and so on, that this is the American M EV1, is that when the Leica M EV1, it's such a difficult name, was released, then it was delayed for a month in US and also Canada. And the reason was that Leica had changed the name from M11V to Leica M EV1, and then they had to redo the whole procedure of getting it approved for the American market, because there is Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, electronics and everything in it, so it has to go through a process and get some approval numbers here. Same in Europe and so on, but in the US it just took longer, and that meant it was delayed for a month. So you can say for a month, unless you picked up one from outside the US or Canada, you had to go with the SL3. This is not the end of the world. The EVF is really beautiful, and I use this actually a lot for event camera, because when I look through it here, I can change the ISO, and then I can focus here, and I can say that I want a little bit more in focus, and I can turn down the exposure, and then I can see, okay, I need more ISO, or I can change the shutter speed here, and there I have it, and then I can take the photograph. Same level, so you say this thing having like a M EV1 with built-in EVF is not a new sensation in the way that you could try with this one. You can see, wow, this is really helpful, and I can do photographs with very high hit rate because I can direct the focus. I can preview the exposure, and I can basically control everything. Only this, of course, is a much bigger camera, and you can say this one maybe is more charming and so on. Not as great EVF or view into the EVF as the SL3, but nonetheless, so this is why this was called the, or maybe it's still called the American Leica M EV1. What might happen when you get the Leica M EV1 is that it is great, and you can suddenly see in the dark, which means you could say whenever you look through the EVF, even in a dark space, it's blown up like it's daylight. So that means it's possible to focus even in the night. And as soon as you press down the release about half, you get the actual exposure, and then you can set the exposure right. Very good for eyesight, low light and everything. What you didn't realize is that even there is actually zero delay on this one, which is very good, because there is, if we take this one, has like a sticky feeling, a sticky delay. This one has nothing. It's kind of like the Q3 in that sense, that there's just no delay. You see things real, but even then you have to go in, focus, take the photograph and so on, And then you realize, wow, this thing with the rangefinder is really amazing. I see everything live all the time. I can change really quickly. I don't have to wait for electronics to update. And it is really charming. I'll let it up to you to decide, but you could say, this camera have a lot of soul, and then the question is, does it still have the soul when you take away the rangefinder and put in an electronic viewfinder? Big question. I don't think we're ever going to agree, all of us, what is the right answer, and that maybe is the beauty of it, that now you have more than one possibility. Leica M EV1, what a name. You could say that makes you think, when is the Leica M EV2 coming? And that is a good question. I would say this is going to sell enough, so this is a version of the camera. It's not going to rule out. We're going to still have rangefinders and we're going to have electronic viewfinders. That's my take on it. This one, I think, is a version 1 of a product, and that means Leica took the EVF from the Cube because it works and it already exists. They put it in here. For some reason, they also took the same diamond instead of leather here. They have like this diamond covering that is like the Q. I think it makes a little bit less exclusive or something, but whatever. Some people think it's a beautiful, simplistic design. That is what it is. The thing to remember with this one is it is still a Leica M11, which means it's the same as this baby, and that means that it comes with the same colors, it comes with the same type of light meter, and you say if you like that, then it makes sense. Then it's great, continue buying this one, and it was very familiar to what you have in the Leica M11 also. I think that's kind of all I had to say about this camera. It is really one where you try it and maybe you love it, maybe you hate it. Maybe you don't even care to try it because you don't really care. It's all possible. This is a camera that Leica have spent a lot of time deciding if they should do it or not do it. They have been producing it since June 2025, so they have had 4 or 5 months to produce a camera, so there was enough supply, which is nice. Before that, you could say the talk of electronic viewfinder have been on for a long time, and it's obvious, of course, it should have an electronic viewfinder. Fujifilm came out with, I think, 2010, 2012. They came out with an optical viewfinder. You could click it and it would turn into electronic. And people get asking Leica to make that, and Leica did try to make it, and they said no, the quality is not good enough. And I totally agree with that viewpoint, because I tried the Fuji and it is not good enough. It's not a Leica standard, and that's why eventually they ended up with this one, fully electronic viewfinder. And if you want to switch, you switch to a rangefinder camera. That's the simplicity of it. When Leica developed the Leica M11 that came out in 2022, they did plan to make this one also, which is kind of curious, because I said to the product managers when the Leica M11 came out, you should have started with electronic viewfinder because the camera fits that better. And then they said no, people would kill us if we came with electronic viewfinder. So then they did plan it to come with it already in 2022, but then they skipped it again because internally in the factory is like, no, we don't want, yeah, we do, but let's make it in a way so people can see rangefinder better. Whatever the thing is, I'm sure there's like 10, 20 different lines into this. And that is the reason Leica did not want to do an electronic viewfinder on M for a long time, and also you could say in a way the same reason that we now have one with electronic viewfinder. And when I say that this is perfect for M11 is that you could say when you have an M11 here, you could say when you turn on the camera, then the shutter goes up because the light meter is on the sensor, and then when you take a photograph, then the shutter actually closes and open so that it can close again. So you have it open, it closes, open, closes, so to take the picture, and then it open again so you can use the light meter. And that is, it makes sense that you would put the light meter on the sensor instead of having separate light meter eyes in the camera. And in the M EV1, it comes together in the way that you can see that, of course, the shutter have to go up, so you have live view and light metering. So in this one, you don't really feel that it's odd that the sensor goes up when you turn on the camera. It's just it just seems very natural. So it's almost like the M11 concept was born. It was made for having an electronic viewfinder, and here we have it. That's my talk on the M EV1. Remember the downloads below the video, and remember to comment so you can win some of the amazing goodies I have. Thank you for watching. Until I see you next time, remember to always wear a camera.